back to another Era Quinn Caladrim video. We are Era Quinn Caladrim. He's Estenis.
And he's Etter.
That means father. Estenis means firstborn. We really like elven words. There's lots of fun things that we can do with elven words. Tolkien was genius, and he created so many things. And in this video, we have a special treat for you. He created languages, he created cultures, he created, obviously, Middle-earth and all of the things that we've grown to love about Middle-earth. This is only the second video that we've done on an army review, but this is a special one. We have an event coming up. Once per year, we run an event in Ontario, Canada, and our event is called the Council of the Wise. And there's some special things that we do in our event because it's ours and because our friends have asked us to and encouraged us to, and we've asked them and they've been okay with some of our crazy ideas. So one of them is at our event, you can play the Blue Wizards. And we have been working on their profiles for a few years now. This is year 4. And we've been continuing to refine and just sort of build as we go. We've had to rewrite them because of the new updated rules from Middle-earth SBG.
And constant updates and whatnot, as something was broken, something is underpowered, and we fixed
them as we go. So they're getting better and better. But we have Blue Wizard profiles we're going to show you today. Today our army review is on the Blue Wizards. So these are one hole in the game that the Tolkien lore has more to say about. There's not a lot in the Tolkien lore. There is the book, the unreleased miniatures, I was going to say. They've got some miniatures. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
The Unfinished Tales is a book that the Tolkien dynasty published that has a paragraph about this big, about Pallando and about Alatar. And then there's another bit of literature that came out later in one of the unreleased packages. It was just an essay that got bound together with some other content where they were given new names, Romastamo and Marinatar. So we'll tell you about that. And you can look all this up on the wiki, on the LOTR wiki.
It's an amazing website.
It's an amazing website. We did a screen capture of it so you can view it. Editor boy here is clever. He can put that on the screen so you can see it. There is a great deal of detail on that site about all of the characters in the Middle-earth history. All of the characters named and listed, and even some that are unnamed. So that site has pretty much everything that we know about the Blue Wizards, everything Tolkien left us. And it's not a lot, but it is enough to make a profile and have some real good fun. So what we did, we started with the wizards that Games Workshop made profiles for. There's 3. Saruman, Radagast.
Technically 4.
Okay, Saruman, Radagast, and Gandalf. Who's the 4th?
Gandalf 2.0.
Yeah, sure. Gandalf the White. So there's 4 wizards profiles in the Middle-earth SBG game. Most of them are in the... Well, actually, they span both books pretty good, but most of them are in the first book. In the... you want to show them the cover?
Where is it?
The Armies of... that was upside down. The Armies of the Lord of the Rings.
No, it wasn't. That's right side up. Right.
Okay, so I'm upside down. Armies of the Lord of the Rings has 3 of them. Armies of the Hobbit has the other 2. It has Radagast is in the Armies of the Hobbit, complete with the Radagast Alliance profiles. Yep. We built the Blue Wizard profiles off of those 3 wizards.
Radagast is the main base, though.
Yeah, we ignored Gandalf the White. We were looking for base wizard profiles. So we ignored Saruman the Wise in the old rules and Saruman the White in the old rules. We worked with Saruman from Orthanc, from Isengard. Simplest version of the wizard profiles. Gandalf the Grey, Saruman the White from Orthanc, which was just called Saruman. Anyway, it doesn't matter. In the new rules, they're all a blended profile. So it's the Saruman profile. We use the Radagast profile without any eagles or sleds or anything. And reread all of the special rules and sort of built from there. We took things away from their profiles. So, for example, if we flip open the Radagast profile, do you mind passing me that?
Stack of books over here.
Yeah, because you need these books for this game. They're great books, too. They're so beautiful. So here's the Armies of the Hobbit book. Here's the Radagast profile. All the profiles have some beautiful imagery in them, and they've got lots of great content that talks about the lore and the character, the way Tolkien defined him, and how they've expressed that in the rules. So pick a favorite rule here, Ron.
Can I do a magical power?
Sure.
Nature's Wrath.
Nature's Wrath. What better than the Nature Wizard to have Nature's Wrath? So yes, he has Nature's Wrath and he can blow things up. He flies in on an eagle, or he comes crashing in on his sleigh. There's the sleigh, and it's a beautiful model. So,
and it is ridiculously powerful.
Well, when you use it right, it absolutely can be.
It's a killing machine.
And Radagast is an old enough character that once upon a time there were some old models for him. So here is the old Radagast model, which I have converted onto my sleigh because I just loved that old model so much better than the new one. And there's a lot of room to have fun with these models. This game is so well designed for craftspeople who like to play. Obviously, I played a little bit on this. I'm really proud of this. We got another video where we talk about this at length and how I did this conversion. But that little Radagast model as a special one. It's kind of hard to find, and I have seen some great pictures online of blue wizard conversions for that. And there are some really great fun ideas on there. So, of course, I'm going to brag about this too, because this was such a fun project. That single Radagast model that came with the sleigh, I was going to get rid of it until I saw him, and just looking at him, he looked like he was wakeboarding to me. That's my favorite sport. Ultimate Frisbee is my favorite sport.
I agree.
Wakeboarding is so much
superior.
fun. I am terrible at wakeboarding, but it's a lot of fun. He just looked like he was holding on to the I don't even know what it's called. My goodness.
Handle?
See, that's how bad I am. The boat handle. It looks like he was holding on to that and trying to surf. So I made Radagast wakeboarding with dolphins out of my extra Radagast. But yeah, those wizard models are fun to convert. So we're going to show you some blue wizard conversions, and we'll talk about the profiles, but let's show off some conversions first. Some of the simplest that I have seen is a wizard painted blue. So pick a model, any of your favorite poses. You can change them up a little bit, add some color to them. Here's a Saruman. It's got some purple coloring on him. And I've seen some really clever stuff done online. There's lots of great pictures online. You might want to feather some of those in when you edit the video too. I stole a couple of wizards from other games just because I wanted mine to look different and not the same as Gandalf or Radagast or Saruman. Because it's nice on the table when they look different. So here's just a random wizard from a fantasy game.
To take a second take, they're like, "Whoa, what is that?"
Yeah, and it's exciting and it's fun and they're clearly distinct and you can tell that they're not one of the other wizard models, which is kind of fun. The Games Workshop models are so good. So I did that. I'll show you my mounts in a minute. You want to show off your own here? This guy's from Unreleased Miniatures.
Yes, this
Adam
is the
does
one.
such great work.
Totally covering it with my fingers. There we go. Professionally painted, and this one I actually won for winning the profile competition on Council of Bless. I should have.
A couple of years ago.
I should have won.
Somebody's jealous.
But,
and thank you, OHA Jason. OHA Ontario Hobbit Adventures, really talented guys over there. So he painted these up as prizes a couple of years ago for us. But the model came from Unreleased Miniatures, and there are others. They have Unreleased Miniatures has a whole line of really clever models.
They've got 4 poses.
This one's the Elven with the Taumaturg.
Do they have 4 poses?
They have 4 blue wizard poses.
Yeah.
And we can show you those images. But there are lots of modelers out there who have made really good wizard conversions.
Oh yeah.
Even one from North Star. North Star Miniatures. It looks like Elsa from Disney's Frozen movie.
That one. That was
actually pretty cool. You could take, Galadriel is older than some of the. Actually, she's as old as some of these wizards are. A lot of people don't understand the lore behind the wizards, so we'll talk very briefly about that. A lot of people don't realize Galadriel is one of many who is older than Middle-earth. She came from before time into Middle-earth before the First Age and was there for all the craziness of the First Age, which is why she talks about how she can feel the earth changed in the prologue in the movie. That's quotes from the book.
And all her brothers and cousins and nephews, and they're all dead.
If anybody has the right to be sad, she'd be the one. So
it's an epic story.
Yes. And she knew and learned from the gods in the old world, in the First Age. Actually, before the First Age. She was part of the First Age, but before the First Age was the gods. If you read the Silmarillion, and the first chunk of the Silmarillion, the first 2 chapters read like a prologue. It's called the Ainulindali and the Valindali. I hope I'm pronouncing those right. Really artistic reads. Tolkien was a beautiful mind, and he wrote these up beautifully, and it's a creation story. It's the creation of Middle-earth. It's created in song. It's created by a loving creator, Eru Iluvatar. He starts the language right there. He creates the first archangels, the gods, and then they create lesser angels, which are including the wizards, and Sauron, and some notables who went good or went bad. And the Astari are some of those.
And the dragons are all fallen.
They all come from that time.
Which choose to manifest their power. Maya, right. The Astari are the wizards, the Maya are that. Got you.
The Maya
they
are
just
the
choose
angels.
to manifest their power in its fullness. The wizards choose not to do that.
So they all come from different places and they all have different stories. Curanir, Saruman, the craftsman, comes to Middle-earth, and you see that come out in Isengard, where he's a craftsman, and he uses his crafts for evil, but he is a craftsman. It's part of who he is. Mithrandir, the Wanderer, his first name was...
Don't ask me. I don't know.
Anyway, it's a cool story, backstory. So the backstories are, some of the gods sent the wizards, the Astari, as Maya, as angels, sent them to Middle-earth to help Middle-earth's peoples. This is after the battle of the First Age and the War of the Gods and the War of Wrath, and some crazy stuff happened in the First Age. Good lore videos. Other people have done a better job talking about that than us. But when the wizards were sent to Middle-earth, they were sent to help. And they were sent by the gods. The blue wizards specifically were sent by the god of the hunt. So Orome. It's again, we struggle with the pronunciation.
It's got like a dot slashy thingy over the top of
some
the
fun accents because Tolkien was a linguist. He was clever. So the god of the hunt sent the 2 blue wizards, and the blue wizards in our profiles are hunters. And their profile lore comes from the god of the hunt and from the little bits that Tolkien gave us. So let's start with Alatar. The 2 wizards were not twins. They were created by the gods, but they kind of behaved like twins. They were sort of attached at the hip. They went everywhere together. They learned together. They fought together. They saved together. They invested in Middle-earth and preserved together. And they kind of disappeared. The best lore that we have is that they got lost in the War of the Ring to each other and to everyone else. So you can look at this on the screen. I'm just going to read a couple of quick thoughts. But wandering in the east and south, the blue wizards became isolated and lost to the free peoples of Middle-earth. The Dark Lord bent his thought upon the minds of the blue wizards, distorting their experience of the world. They have seen the hopeless fall of the eastern realms, personally. That's true. That's out of Tolkien's lore. They have heard tales of Saruman leading Uruk-hai, of the growing shadow of the Witch King, who they fear is the fallen Gandalf, because they don't know what's going on. They've got a distorted worldview. They've heard the dark of Mirkwood and Dol Guldur. They fear for Radagast. And these are their brethren. These are their brother angels who came from the before time. They've seen the growing evils in Mordor, the broken Arnor, Osgiliath, Khazad-dûm, Dale. These are old guys. They came in the Second Age. They've seen thousands of years of the world getting worse and nothing getting better. So they're losing hope, and they have been utterly isolated from the counsels of the wise. They wander alone with little hope for Middle-earth, hiding in the shadows, preserving what good they can in the world, and stirring rebellion among Sauron's servants until the Valar return to restore the great song of Eru Ilúvatar, the creation song. Where the Astari were born, into light and peace and song, they are lonely, and though some strength remains in them, they mourn the elder days and they long to return to the blessed realm. That's Tolkien stuff. That's out of the lore. So we wanted to capture that in the game, and we came up with some special rules that play off of that character. We'll show you that in a minute.
What?
You want to say something? No, you're good?
No.
Keep on. Alatar means forest spreader. That's one of his 2 names. These names are really important in the lore, so we worked with them. Forest spreader.
Second one, Morinitar.
He likes
Darkness
that one. Yeah, the Darkness Slayer. That's his name, Darkness Slayer. And all we know about him is that he wandered around in the east and the south fighting against Sauron's minions, but not by himself. He used them to fight each other, and he stirred up rebellion. Interesting guy. So did Pallando. And eventually, we don't know what happened to them. Some of the original stories were that they fell, like Saruman, and they turned into gods in the east and south, and they had a following, but they never led any armies in the War of the Ring. And if they had fallen the way that Saruman did, they would have shown up in the War of the Ring and caused major problems. Because they would have been as powerful as Saruman, and maybe a little lesser, because Saruman was the head of their order. But they were wizards. They were troubles. They would have been at least as powerful as the 9, the Nazgul. And probably more so. Because we watched Saruman fight all of the 9. And in the book, Gandalf the White, roasted the 9, and he could have totally wrecked the Witch King. And the movie does that really poorly. The book is a much more powerful version of Gandalf the White.
In the book, they just kind of stare at each other for a second.
Gandalf the White, anyway. These 2 guys would have been powerful. So later in Tolkien's life, he corrected that and said that they just stirred up dissension, and they kind of hid, and they never showed up at the War of the Ring because they didn't come to Middle-earth to fight. They came to Middle-earth to preserve and to help. So that's what they did. They helped stir up dissension against Sauron. So the way that shows up in their profiles, we took a base wizard profile in Radagast. He seemed to be the best way to start.
Well, first we took the common trend profile between Gandalf, Saruman, and Radagast, and pretty much every single one of the wizard profiles. The basic stat line, movement to fate.
Yeah.
Everything in between.
6-inch move, unless they're mounted.
Fight 5. Shoot value is irrelevant for the most of them.
Yep.
They average around a 4+. These guys are hunters, so we gave them 2+. Because these guys
not only are they hunters. Well, not only are they hunters, they are the children of the god of the hunt. So if anybody in the game has a 2+ to shoot, they should.
Like Thranduil and them. So there's Thranduil, there's Legolas, and there's them.
And these guys are older than Thranduil. So we give them a 2+ to shoot. Strength 4 because they're wizards. Defense 5 because they're wizards. Everything's because they're wizards. One attack, 3 wounds. Courage 7.
But not Courage
7. This was creative. Courage 7 if they're in the White Council, because then their hope is restored and they're strengthened. This is a special rule that we added to them. We called this rule Hope of the Eldar. The Blue Wizards have been so isolated and deceived by Sauron about the fate of the other wizards that they are shocked and encouraged when they encounter the other wizards who have indeed not fallen. They start at courage 5. And they start with 1 less will than the other wizards as well. Instead of having 3 might, 6 will, and free will per turn, and 3 fate, they start with 3, 5, 3, 5 will, and courage 5. They take a penalty on their courage and on their will, unless you play them with each other, or with the White Council, the ancient ones, who came to Middle-earth to help. Because that restores their courage, and it proves to them that Sauron's wrong, that the things that they believed to be true are lies, and they get sort of feisty, so they get their strength and will back. Hope of the Eldar is a special rule that we added to them. The Alatar special rule is kind of a fun one. You want to explain it?
So basically, Alatar, forest spreader, in his movement, any point in his movement, he can spend a will point to essentially create trees, because that's what he does.
Oh, look.
So he spends a will point to create D3 trees within 6 inches of himself. And we do have rules for how big these trees are. They have to be less than a 60 millimeter base. So they're not massive. You can't just go, boom, wall. And they're not impassable.
Yes. Important. We've had some people challenge us on this and say you can drop 3 trees around a Gundabad troll and trap him. So it should be a super expensive rule.
Yeah.
All it does is introduce rough terrain. And it provides some in the ways.
And it can block line of sight.
Yes. Because they're trees, and because they provide in the ways, and because these blue wizards are from the god of the hunt, we built them off Radagast's profile and gave them Radagast's sight unseen rule that they can hide. They have an built-in elven cloak. They have the stalk unseen special rule. Same as Radagast. If anybody's got elven cloaks, these guys should have elven cloaks. So they hide very, very well. And if he wants, he can hide and drop trees in front so that he can stay hidden. Kind of a fun little gimmicky thing to build off of the Alatar special name. So that's Alatar. Marinatar, what's Marinatar do?
Marinatar is a fun one.
Slayer.
So basically, he gets +1 to his casting rolls when he's casting against spirits and trolls.
Only.
Because these are the things that he would be hunting. Wolves, kind of, but all the big bad wolves are kind of limited. Wargs are meh. And then he also fights trolls and spirits with Fight 6 and Strength 6, which is awesome.
He gets a
and
buff.
he does D3 wounds. So it's basically Spirit
He really
Bane.
hates darkness.
It's Spirit Bane, but for spirits and trolls.
Yeah. Because he's Marinatar. He's the Darkness Slayer. So he should be feisty against something. So those are his special name rules.
Very powerful rule, but only against spirits and trolls.
Yeah.
And against spirits, most of them are casters, which aren't going to be fighting anyway. They're going to be running around in the back ranks.
For example, he can go hunting wraiths. That's kind of the idea. Hunting wraiths, hunting the undead, hunting the things that he was sent to Middle-earth to mess up so that he can help the free peoples. So he does stuff like that. He's not meant to go out and fight infantry. He doesn't want to fight Middle-earth. He's getting rid of the stuff that's not supposed to be in Middle-earth and helping Middle-earth to be free and be itself. So interesting kind of play there. Now, in order to point cost all of these rules, what we did is we took rules away from Radagast, which are Radagast's special rules. He's the nature wizard. He's got all of his special things about stalking around, and he's got the terrain thing where he can be sort of immune to all terrains. We took away a whole bunch of Radagast special rules, and then we replaced those with other special rules, and we adjusted points using the Battle Company's rules metric, actually. The old Battle Company's book had a really good way of explaining the rules. The value of rules. Points for war gear, points for elven cloaks, points for equipment, things like climbing grapples and such.
And attacks and wounds had a higher point cost than the other stats because they are obviously superior.
Right.
And then heroic stuff was just special, like special rules and everything like that cost more because they're special.
So, let's talk about the rest of his special rules, then we'll talk about heroics because that matters a lot more than it used to, and then we'll go through their keywords. Another couple special rules here. You got his names, Alatar and Marinatar. We talked about the Hope of the Eldar, the special blue wizard rule. There's one more special blue wizard rule. We called it, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Want to explain that one?
So basically, they were out stirring up dissension among Sauron's followers. So for first off, they weren't with the good guys. They were with the bad guys. So for this, we have a list of different factions under their keyword section, which you can see on the screen. But essentially, they can be taken as a part of any of these factions. And the way that this works for the Alliance Matrix is that they follow the Alliance Matrix rules for that faction.
Right.
So if you took them as part of Gondor, you'd be a green alliance with Rohan and the Fiefdoms, and a yellow alliance with everyone else that they're a yellow alliance with. If you took them with part of Harad, you'd get all the Harad alliances.
Which is Mordor, but that's cool.
Yep.
Their keywords represent the lore, and we tried to grab it as faithfully as we could. So for example, Alatar, the forest spreader, has the keywords wizard, Gondor, Corsair, because he went that way, Easterling, because he went that way, Candish, Haradrim, and then infantry and hero. We'll talk about hero in a minute. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. He can be fielded with any of these armies except the key things that he was sent to fight against, which are
evil, nasty spirits. So basically, Sauron, Gullivar, and the Balrog.
He will not join it. It's specifically worded. He will not cast on friendly evil spirits. We'll say why in a minute. And he will not ally or join the same army, period, as Sauron, Gullivar, or a Balrog. He's sent into Middle-earth to get rid of those things. So, really interesting rule. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. There's one more catch to it. Because he was sent to help the free peoples, the blue wizards will not attack good models. So you can field them with an evil army, and they will cast on good model, but they will not attack good models. I'll read it exactly. Alatar may join armies good or evil, see his keywords, and may green ally with the White Council, because he should be able to do that. He cannot charge good models, but will defend himself if charged. He cannot cast against friendly evil spirits. You'll see why in a minute. And he will not ally with or join the same army as Sauron, Gullivar, or a Balrog. Period. He can cast Fortify Spirit, Command, Immobilize, Renew, and Strengthen Will. Why? Because he's a dissenter. He's a blue wizard. He's a subverter. He's sent to sabotage. He's sent to mess stuff up. So he does Fortify Spirit because, oh my goodness, everybody's been confused and messed up by Sauron. He can Fortify Spirit. He commands and immobilizes because all the wizards do. Oh, yeah. So you kind of got to have those base ones in there at least anyway. Renew and Strengthen Will, again, because he's healing and he's helping. And that's kind of all he's really doing. He's healing and he's helping and he's stirring up trouble. Now, since the rule update, all of the wizards actually have been buffed a bit, and they all have more spells than they used to.
And they've been tweaked slightly.
Right.
So Radagast now has Nature's Wrath in his profile. Originally, the Eagle and the Slay were two separate profiles. Now it's a one profile, which means he has Nature's Wrath as a spell. Which means when you have him on Slay or on foot, then he has unlimited Nature's Wrath. Yep. And he's the only model in the game with unlimited Nature's Wrath. Unless you're doing the Elrond Lindir hat trick. But
that's for another video.
Yeah.
So, if you have any thoughts for us about spells these guys should have, because they're kind of underloaded on spells right now, we don't want to add many. It's got to be thin. But put them in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Back to the profiles. They've only got these 5 spells. They can't cast on friendly evil spirits. Why? Because they have Strength and Will. If you put them with a Wraith, that would be really goofy. So you can't Strength and Will in a Wraith.
And they're not there to help the evil spirits. They're there to stir up dissension, which
they're there to help the free peoples.
May occasionally line up with somewhat assisting the spirits, but they will never directly assist the Nazgul, for example.
Right. Enemy of my enemy is my friend. You got some weird stuff happening. Last special rule that we've got on this guy, and then we'll talk war gear and stuff. Where to go? Ithrin
What are you looking for?
Avatar. Darkness Slayer. Crimple Karna. Because there's some holes in the lore, and they're fun to try to tie together. So, there are the Blue Wizards are known by many names. This one is known by Alatar, Marinatar, Ithrin Luin, the Blue Wizards, or in English, the Blue Wizard. They're known by many names, much like the other wizards. Marinatar, Darkness Slayer, was rumored the greatest hunter of the East, born in the blessed realm of Oromi, the god of the hunt. Now the bane of trolls and apparitions seen stalking from Mordor. Yes, I wrote that. Crimple Karna, from Black Speech, means bind the Karna in Black Speech. Crimple Karna once captured a fell spirit that was tormenting the people of Karna and trained watchers there to keep it captive. We're knitting these guys back into the lore. Watchers of Karna weren't a Tolkien thing so much. So we figured we'll just attach him to the Watchers of Karna. And that was kind of fun. And that ties into the Marinatar rule and into the special rule that we gave him. So I think that's pretty much it. War gear, you can get him an elven bow or Son of the God of the Hunt, a great bow. On a 2-up shoot with a great bow. It costs 10 points. It's more expensive.
Some fisherman dude from Lake Town that picked up an old bow from his grandfather who was burned by a dragon is the only model with a great bow. These guys should have a great bow.
These guys should have a great bow. So they get a great bow, or a horse for 10 points, or a war camel for 15. And dude, that makes a really fun conversion. Just saying. I love my Blue Wizard on a war camel. And if they were down in the south,
it's awesome.
And it plays well. If they were down in the south, they would have some interesting stories to tell. So hey, all of the wizards have mounts. Some of them are more interesting than others. Saruman gets a horse. That's it. Because he was the craftsman, he wasn't so much into nature and stuff. Gandalf gets his cart. That's cool. And they added some new rules to make it even more fun. Radagast, Shadowfax is a big deal. Beast of a horse. He's got a buff now. He's a much better horse than he used to be. Radagast, the nature guy, gets an eagle or a sleigh with a bunch of bunnies. I mean, they're very appropriate mounts we're joking about fun conversions and what would Saruman take if he was going to have a fun conversion. One of these days I'm going to make a Saruman with a hot air balloon, because I think that would just be fun. Not at all useful in play, and it wouldn't have any kind of special rules or anything, but it'd be fun. So I may do that. Anyway, so we've got blue wizards on camels because that makes sense. If they were in the east and the south, they would have done this. And I mean, that would have been how they would have related to the people in the south. If they're going to wander around with the Haradrim, that makes sense. So Alatar can get a camel, so can Pallando. That's the last option for Alatar's war gear. So let's shift and talk about Pallando. The only other thing I'll say about that, camel's the camel, same rules as Harad. Costs him more. He's got a 10-point horse or a 15-point camel. If he was a Harad raider, he would have had a different point cost. He's not. He's a wizard.
Mahud raider.
Mahud raider, yeah. So he's got, right, because a Harad raider is another thing. Sorry. 10-point horse, you can't make the camel the same point value, or it just wouldn't make any sense. So we made it a more expensive camel. It's a 15-point camel. And it has the Impaler rule. It's the same as the other camels. 10-inch move, strength 4, D4, does a strength 4 hit on impact. 1 wound, courage 2, you can't use it for anything. I mean, you lose it like a mount. It doesn't stick around to stay like a ward or an eagle or anything weird like that. So it's a camel. Pallando. Some other cool stuff about Pallando.
He's a fun one. So I actually prefer Pallando over Alatar, and I think it'll become very obvious why. First off, his kind of spiel defining his character. They are known by many names, much like the other wizards. The Padanin, Water Walker in Noldorin, was seen from time to time helping defend Umbar in days long past when it was a Númenórean outpost. Rumors continue even today of a misty spirit that interferes with the activities of Umbari pirates and haunts the superstitions of the Corsairs.
Because pirates are all superstitious, don't you know? So if this blue wizard can do anything cool around water, he should be a superstition.
He's got the exact same stat line as Alatar. He's
as he should.
Just a mirrored wizard.
Including the same special rules which we talked about before, the Staff of Power because he's a wizard.
Yep.
The Hope of the Eldar special rule that
One
he drops. Well, he drops courage and he drops will unless he's fielded with Council of the Wise. One with nature, the same as Radagast, so he can sneak around. He's got stalk unseen. He ignores all rough terrain rules. They both do that.
And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So he's got
Which
the
is
same
the blue
kind
wizard
of alliance thing. Although he does have slightly different keywords.
Yeah, want to go through those?
Wizard, Gondor, Corsair, Easterling, Haradrim, Mahud, Mordor, Infantry Hero.
Yeah, so the difference, Alatar went as far as the Kandish to the east, not as far as the Mahud. Pallando went as far as the Mahud, not as far as the Kandish. So we made them just a little bit different. That's not so much about the lore as it is about the game, because in the game, all of the wizards have little uniquenesses about them. We didn't want the blue wizards to be twins. The profiles should not be cloned profiles. There should be something interesting and different about them. So that's what we did.
He's got 2 special rules made off of his own unique names. So, we've got Water Walker, which is based off of his other name, Padanin. That's how you say it?
Yep, Padanin. The Water Walker, yep.
So basically, whenever he's dismounted, he can just freeze water and walk on it with no penalty.
So in terms of gameplay, he just walks on water. He ignores water, treats it as another rough terrain.
Straight up waterfall.
And he ignores all rough terrain. And he can take a climb test to go up a waterfall. Kind of a fun little feature there. Not sure how many boards you're going to play on that have a water feature that looks like a waterfall, but he could climb it if it was... Yeah, you might want to make a board with a waterfall just so you can try this.
He has Heavenly Huntsman. That's Romastamo. So basically, this is the idea that of the 2, Alatar and Pallando, arguably they were good at different things, obviously. Alatar was the Darkness Slayer, so he hunted the big nasties. And Romastamo, he was the Heavenly Huntsman. So for
That's
the way we
Pallando
translated...
name. The word Pallando means Heavenly Huntsman.
Yep. So the way that we translated that is that basically he's better at riding.
What I just said is wrong. Should we just read the rule and then you can say, let me read the rule, then he can add his thoughts to it here. We put a lot of time and effort into these. Here's what the rule says. Heavenly Huntsman is the name of the rule. It's kind of built off of the special huntsman from the Rohan hero that's got ideas in there. He's a huntsman.
Similar.
So let's make a special rule for huntsman. Romastamo, the East Helper, that's what Romastamo means, East Helper, was born of Orome, the god of the hunt, and is a master archer. Pallando means Farseer in Valinorian. Farseer. So he should have something special about that. There are other hunts rules in this game which we built from, which does this. So if the Heavenly Huntsman is in the game, he should at least be able to do as good as the best huntsman's in the game. King's Huntsman, kind of a cool huntsman. This guy is like the King's King. Anyway, he should have some kind of rule. So, He only fails in the weight test on a roll of 1. That's the King's Huntsman. He should have this. Further, he can drive a Mumakil, a Beast of Gorgoroth, a War Camel, a Chariot, or a horse. He's the Heavenly Huntsman. He can ride anything. And he adds plus 2 inches movement to his mount, except for the monsters. Because
So
if you add plus 2 inches on the charge bonuses off of a Beast of Gorgoroth, you don't get that. But he adds 2 inches to everything else. Note, the Beast of Gorgoroth and Mumakil are purchased separately. You have to add the point cost for those. Romastamo can be deployed. And sorry, when you buy them from their own profile. So they're going to come with their own crew. But Romastamo can be deployed to pilot either, or he can remount or assume control of either from a friendly unit, or by killing all the drivers during play. Both are treated as monsters with battle platforms, not mounts. So if you're going to cast, because he is a blue wizard, you measure from his base. So if he's way up on the top of the Moomac, his range does not change. You measure from his base. You're not going to have a very big casting bubble on the ground. And no, you cannot measure 12 inches from the base of the Moomac to the whole frickin' board all over the place. So you measure from his base. It's a battle platform. So you can put him on a Moomac, but then he's not much of a pilot. You really should probably use the War Leader for that. But it's kind of fun. Put a blue wizard on a Moomac. It's fun. We read the Water Walker rule already. You want to add to the Heavenly Huntsman?
So Heavenly Huntsman, basically, the reason it's so good is because the options that he has in his profile.
Right.
So he has the same options as Alatar. So he's got the Elven Bow, the Great Bow, the Horse, and the War Camel. On top of that, he also has a Condish Chariot. Now, this is actually really cool and it's a unique option. And the reason that it's the Condish Chariot is because it's not an Iron Hills Chariot, and there are only 2 chariots in the game. So we just copied the rules straight from the Condish Chariot. Copy and paste, no differences to the profile, with the minor exception that his chariot actually has a base of 2 attacks, which is a big difference. But at the same time, he's the master at this. If anyone's good at this, it's him.
And you put Radagast on an eagle or on a sleigh, he gets a bunch of extra attacks. You put Gandalf the White on Shadowfax, he's got extra attacks. If you load this wizard up with all of his most expensive options, he gets an extra attack. One extra
He's
attack.
going to be 190 points once you put him on the chariot.
Yeah, and if you give him his Great Bow, he's 200. So
so it's a little expensive, but it's worth it because the chariot, the Condish Chariot in the new rules, has changed a lot. And there are threads going around on like the GBHL and everything like that. These things are OP now. Well, not necessarily. They're just really, really good. Wrong book.
excuse me, I took a note. So just while we're doing this, I'm just going to say we actually mixed. This is my fault, not his. I screwed this up. The keywords are backwards. Alatar should have the keyword Mahud. Pallando should have the keyword Kandish. I'm going to fix
East
that.
and South.
We'll repost it. Yes. The East guy went to the Kandish. The
In
South
case
guy went to the
you
Mahud.
didn't know, keywords and heroics was added because of this new edition. Blame it on
Correct.
the new edition. It's all GW's fault.
I'll own that.
It's
It's
not
GW's
us.
fault for coming up with the idea. I goofed up the profiles. We'll tell you about the heroics in a minute.
All right.
So here's the chariot. Here's what the chariot can do. If you
So-
haven't seen the Kandish chariot, it is a cool model. All right, time out. While he's doing that, here's my blue wizard on chariot. Yes, I have a blue wizard on a chariot. Are you kidding?
It
I
is
actually did it. And
awesome.
honestly, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun conversion to make. I got the Kandish kit, and Kandish, excuse me. Got the Kandish kit, and put a blue wizard on there and painted the horse sashes up on blue. So here we go. What's the chariot do?
The chariot has 4 special rules, and these are all similar to the Iron Hills chariot. So if you know how that works, you basically know how this works, but it's kind of toned down.
Similar. It's
Toned down. So defensive bulwark, because there's an actual platform. So basically, it's a monstrous mount in the sense that on the 1 to 4, when you're shooting at it, you got to take the in the way. Except instead of being a 1 to 3, you hit the mount, 4, 5, 6, you hit the rider. It's a 1 to 4, you hit the mount, 5, 6, you hit the rider.
Yeah.
And that's really good because the chariot is 3 wounds at defense 7, which means
so
it
that
can
helps
take
your
a lot
wizard
of
be a little
punishment.
more durable.
Now, the change to the rules is now, instead of in addition to being the monstrous mount for archery, it's also the save in combat. So you also have to take the in the way test to see if you can strike at Pallando himself when you're fighting him in combat.
And that's new
1
for
to-
chariots in the new edition. It
1
didn't
to
used to be
4,
that way.
you're going to hit the chariot. 5, 6, you actually hit Pallando, and this is great.
Used to be. If you were in base contact with the model, you could choose whether you're striking the model or the mount. Chariots are a little bit different. They're such a big mount that you can't just choose to strike the model or the mount. You got to take it in the way in the chariot. It's not even the same if you're riding on a monster. If you're on a wraith on a fell beast, or if you're a Radagast on an eagle, if you're in base contact, they can choose to strike the mount or to strike the rider. With a chariot, they can't. They still have to.
It's like an actual wall. You're actually in a platform. You can duck behind the wall. If you're riding on an eagle, yes, it's awesome. It's an eagle, but your legs are exposed.
Whatever. They wrote the rule that way. We're using it. So it's a chariot. 3, fight 0, 10-inch move, has the 2 horses, which gives it 3 wounds.
Yep. For some odd reason. You got the 2 horses, you got the chariot, I guess.
And strength 3 only matters if you're talking about hurling it or something like that.
Yeah.
So strength 3, defense 7, 3 wounds.
Chariot and magic, because they had to add special rules around how it affects with magic. Models with magical powers are allowed to use them on the chariot, but they will only affect the chariot if it's cast on the rider. So, or the driver, sorry.
Yeah.
So in this case, there's only one driver. There's no extra crew, so just cast.
That's
it
a
on Pallando.
holdover from the Iron Hills chariot rule.
Exactly.
It's not. It's more complicated there.
If you read the fine print, a bunch of these rules were obviously copied and pasted, and they didn't bother to change them. So
it's nice to have consistent rules. This one probably would have benefited from some retraction of some of the words that aren't helping as much, but it is nice to have consistent rules. So
basically, transfix, compel, everything like that, it all still will affect the model, but it has to be cast on the rider.
Yep.
Magical powers that would knock it prone, i.e. Nature's Wrath, Call Winds, Sorcerer's Blast, they won't actually knock it prone. So
this is a big deal.
Effectively, he is what's the word? You can't dismount him.
Well, not even that. It says magical power such. It specifically says Sorcerer's Blast, Nature's Wrath, and Call Winds will not move the. It says blast. No, that's the next line. Will not move the chariot or knock it prone. So they're of no use or benefit
They'll
on
just
the chariot.
cause damage if they cause damage.
If they cause
Call
damage.
Winds and Nature's Wrath are actually useless. Sorcerer's Blast does damage, but again, Strength 5 hit on Defense 7 chariot.
So, and the way it moves, similar to the Iron Hills chariot, you can read it in the book. This is what, page 189 out of the Armies of the Lord of the Rings book.
Yep. So it's got a special
briefly?
movement. The Iron Hills chariot is made out of metal. I think that's their logic for why it's slower. The Condish chariot moves 10 inches, but it has the gimmicky chariot thing. So at the beginning of the movement, you can pivot up to 45 degrees. There's a template in the back of the book for that. It can then move a 10-inch move, and every full 3 inches, it can choose to rotate another 45 again. So essentially, you can have up to 3 45-degree pivots in your 10-inch run.
Which sort of runs like a chariot would.
Yeah, it works.
And you can weave it back and forth through things. Interesting. It ignores control zones while it's doing this, because it's just this massive thing that's just got horses charging. It doesn't care where you're standing. It's either going to charge you or it's going to go. It ignores control zones. So that's very interesting.
A really important change to the rules, and it specifically says this: a chariot that is affected by a heroic march may still inflict impact hits. So the Condish chariot has been changed. So now when it's charging, it causes 2 strength 4 impact hits. And
horses
these hits,
charging on you.
Exactly.
Strength 4 hits.
So these hits, it's essentially a double camel team. So the camel or 2 camels strapped to this Defense 7 chariot. It's a really good bargain. The impact hits can be done even if you heroic march. So with Pallando,
you get 5 inches of extra charging and hitting.
Exactly, but on top of that, Romastamo, plus 2 inches because he's an awesome dude. You can get 17 inches of strength 4 impact hits.
So the chariot costs 30 points because it should. In the comments, tell us if you think it should cost even more than that. We actually had it cost 5 points more than the chariot used to. When it used to be a 25-point upgrade, we made it worse for Pallando because he was a big deal with it.
Yeah.
So it's a 30-point upgrade right now. Perhaps it should be more.
But he's really good. And he's really expensive. Wizards, I honestly think, are kind of overrated unless they have some type of combat capability.
If you're going to spend 200 points on a character, you want something like an Azog with
Exactly.
a white warg.
Yeah, and they're no good in combat unless they're on an epic mount.
Especially because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You can take this guy to do really cool things, but he will not charge good models. He'll defend himself, he won't charge them.
So he's literally
That's kind of a big deal.
useless.
Well, not useless, but he's got different uses. You're not going to go charging through a line of infantry with this guy unless they're evil. He'll do that. Now, finish up the move on that, and then we got to talk about his spells. He's got a special spell.
On the note of charging, he also has monstrous charge because it's a chariot. It's not a standard horse, so it will knock over infantry, it will knock over cavalry, and it will knock over monsters that are below strength 3.
Yep, below strength 3. Think about that for a moment. Yeah. So Pallando is a really interesting wizard. We had a lot of fun. Oh, you're not done? I'm sorry.
I'm not done. 2 more things. For movement, because it's a chariot, it's clumsy. So it can't go through any special things like walls, hedges, fences, rocks. It may attempt to
as a rider, has no trouble with difficult terrain.
Yeah, but
if it's in a chariot, it's a chariot.
It's clunky. And whenever it attempts to deal through something difficult, like it specifically says if it attempts to cross obstacles to streams or gullies, it can if it wishes, but it's got to roll dice, and if a 1 is rolled, it's immediately destroyed.
Chariot crashes and burns.
So basically,
he jumps off.
You stick around in open terrain with this thing, just mow things down. and it's a stable platform. So if for whatever reason you're not able to charge with his super fast chariot, then you can actually fire his bow, even if he's moved full movement, which is a nice
There you
gimmick.
go. And he's an expert hunter, not an expert rider. So if he crushes his chariot, he is in trouble. But interesting moments. All right, so we added a special spell to Pallando. Here's his spells. He has Command and Immobilize because he's a wizard. That's what he does. I mean, they all have that. He has Renew because he's a blue wizard. He's trying to stir up trouble and he's trying to help people. He's trying to help the free peoples to get out of Sauron's control and grip. He has Call Winds because he's Pallando. He's kind of an interesting character. This is his thing. He's one of the nature wizards, sort of, but he's a hunter. He has Call Winds. We added that one. And Sandstorm, really special rule.
This is his
special thing. But no, it's not OP at all. It's very careful.
Well, it's very restricted.
It's very restricted.
You'll see in a sec.
But it's his special thing. Each of the character wizards has something special about them. This is his. So because he's the guy that wanders in the east and in the south and kind of does interesting things, Sandstorm, Pallando can summon winds that stir... This is why he has Call Winds. He has Call Winds, he has Sandstorm. Can summon winds that stir the sand into tempest, blinding all the enemy models within 3 inches of himself and making it impossible for anyone other than himself to charge or fire missile weapons into, out of, or through the storm. He can shut down part of the table. 3-inch bubble, 6-inch bubble, 3 inches from him, 6-inch bubble. Nobody can move through that. Nobody can shoot through that. Friend or foe. He shuts down a part of the board, except himself. He can charge in. He can charge out. If he charges in and joins something and calls a heroic combat, he leaves everybody trapped. He's the only one who can get out. So it's limited. Additionally, strikes made after winning a fight in the storm. If he charges in and puts a storm on, there's a fight that has already engaged before, because they can't charge until if he creates the storm first, they can't charge. But if he creates the storm after somebody else has had priority and has already moved and created combats, and he charges in to try to mess up the combats and preserve people, that's what he does. He tries to mess things up and preserve people. So if he messes up a combat, they still fight, they still resolve the fight, they can still resolve wounds, but everybody who's in the sandstorm gets -2 on their 2 wound roll. It makes it really hard for them to actually hit something. They can fight, somebody's going to win the fight, but it's really hard to hit anybody.
It makes it almost impossible for you to ever wound. It's just not theoretically impossible. So if you really, 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 really want to kill that standard infantry model that's been annoying you because he's been beating your tier 1 hero every turn, then you can just mite it off and kill him. But
or charge him with Pallando and use Pallando to kill him.
Yeah.
But he's a wizard. He can do a lot of cool stuff. If you start sandstorming, it's going to tie him up. This is not an exhaustion spell. He's got to cast it every turn.
It's a one-time cast.
It's a one-time cast, and he can keep casting it, and it goes off on 3 up. It's his thing. He can do it. He's got Call Winds on a 2 up. He's the wind guy. He can do cool stuff. He can, but it's going to tie him up. It's going to keep him very busy.
And it's only a 3-inch bubble. It's really powerful, but remember it locks down your own guys as well. So if you're going to do that, you want to relocate
200-point loaded wizard and lock everything down, you can put him on a big hero and tie up a big hero with your 200-point model. It's going to tie up your big hero. So it works. Channeling winds or sandstorm, channeling the sandstorm winds will cause strength 2 hits like Nature's Wrath on everybody within the storm within that 3-inch bubble. So strength 2 hits, not awful, but if you're going to spend might, you get something out of it.
I'd never channel it.
We played with this a little bit, and what we've found when we played with these guys is that they're pretty balanced. For the amount of points that you spend on them, you can have a lot of fun. They do cool things. They're consistent with the lore. They're fun. They really are neat to play. And they're gimmicky, and they're like wizards should be. They do different stuff. But they're expensive. I mean, it's like spending 200 points on a Gandalf the White. There's times you do that. There's times you don't. Now, we got to finish the heroics. They're both heroes that are independent heroes. Interesting. The rest of the wizards are not. Gandalf the White can lead warbands in a bunch of factions.
Yeah.
Gandalf the Grey can too. Saruman can't. Saruman can either lead the White Council or he can be evil and lead Isengard, and that's it. Radagast can lead his alliance, and that's it. He kind of wanders in the wild. He doesn't really have... Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have any interest in being in big battles. The Blue Wizards are deliberately not included in any of the Legendary Legions. Because we didn't make the Legendary Legions, that wouldn't be a fair thing for us to include them in.
Well, and they just weren't there.
Well, that's not them. That's not what they came to Middle-earth to do. They didn't come to lead big battles or to be part of big armies. That's not who they are. They came to hunt. They came to go kill off spirits and stuff. They came to free the free people subversively and with sabotage. So they're going to go in and stir armies up against each other, and when the Legendary Legions go at each other, they're going to stand in the background and cast spells on stuff, maybe, but they're not going to join a Legendary Legion. You could ally them in, perhaps, but you're going to lose your Legion bonuses. As you kind of should.
Well, the legions actually can't ally with anything.
This is true. I misspoke. Yeah, they just don't fit. It's not. They wouldn't go to the siege of Helm's Deep. They wouldn't
Or
be.
Pelennor.
Right.
They
Pelennor wouldn't be.
mess everyone up on the way there, but then they just let it be.
Which the lore says they did. It says actually the battle of the Pelennor field would have been much worse if everything had come that was called. But the Blue Wizards were away, stirring up trouble, keeping more from coming. They actually did their job somewhere else and sort of sabotaged parts of what would have been an even worse Pelennor battle. So they're not in the legendary legions. They're independent heroes. They wander in the wild. Which means you could use the independent hero rule. You can add them into a warband.
Which could be a very powerful consolation if you have, say, Pallando. Pallando and some other big character, so they can go with Gondor. So you have Alatar and Pallando together. That's a lot of points in one spot, and that's a lot of hitting power.
That's a lot of points, yeah.
That can rip like an entire army apart, but that's like 500 points in one spot.
So
you're not going to have much else.
That's as much as a Balrog or
you're
a
not going to
Sauron.
have much else.
Or 2 dragons.
Yeah.
That's yeah, it's expensive. So those are the profiles. What did I miss? Heroic actions. Alatar, they're both hunters, born of the god of the hunt. They're both archers. They both have heroic accuracy. They're both wizards. They both have heroic channeling.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
They're both hiding, thousands of years old, alone, way far away from anybody who's good, with very little help. They have heroic resolve. I mean, they should have heroic resolve. And they have lasted through all kinds of crazy stuff. They both have heroic defense. And they both have 1 fighting heroic. Alatar has strike. Pallando has strength. Because Pallando can drive a Mumak. He's not your average wizard. And Alatar, the Darkness Slayer, he has heroic strike. So you put him up against an evil spirit. He starts at fight 6, only against spirits, and he can strike up and make sure that he can take out a Gulliver.
Boom.
So there you go. That's the heroics. That's the Blue Wizards. When we play them as gimmicks that we add into other armies. It's a lot of fun, but it's kind of rare. It's almost like scenario play, but custom scenarios every time. You can ally them into any of the factions that they are listed with. You can green ally them with the White Council, because they are White Council. You should be able to do that. When they came back from the west, they actually came over with Glorfindel. So I misspoke only a wee little bit. If you field them, the Hope of the Eldar special rule, if you field them with any other form of Gandalf, Radagast, Galadriel, Elrond, or Glorfindel, it's not actually the White Council. It's specific people. It's their fellow Istari who they know are not fallen. They had fear about Gandalf and all the stuff they saw in the north. They thought he might be the Witch King. Then when they see him, they know he's not. They had fear about Radagast, worried about the Necromancer, the stuff in Mirkwood's not good. But when they see him, they know it's him. They don't have fear about Saruman. They know they've seen him lead Uruk-hai. Saruman's off the table. He's not a good guy anymore.
Bye-bye.
But Gandalf, Radagast, Galadriel, Elrond, or Glorfindel, because when they came from heaven, when they came from Aman over to Arda, when they came to Middle-earth, they came with Glorfindel. Glorfindel was sent back from the dead because of another story that's his story for another video. So any of those 5, they wake up. It's like, oh wow, the good guys are still around. It's not, all hope is not lost. Anyway, so Hope of the Eldar, that's their special rule. And if you have any other questions, there's a lot of lore behind these guys. Put them in the questions below the video. We would love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts. Their point cost is actually very close to Radagast. By the time you take away all of the special rules Radagast has, which are numerous and powerful, he has infinite Nature's Wrath. On a sleigh, he could throw 6 dice at somebody and Nature's Wrath them all game long. So you strip all of his special rules off and add in Blue Wizard character rules, they're about the same cost. Alatar's 155 points to Radagast's 150. Pallando's 160 to Radagast's 150. They're pretty close. And the reasons for that, again, we used the Battle Company's rules from Games Workshop, and we subtracted points for special rules, and we added points for special rules. We actually made our rules cost a little extra because we thought they were kind of special and we wanted them to cost something.
Except for a few, like Water Walker. That one's
well, and shoot, when you build points profiles, they don't actually charge you any extra points for increasing the shoot value or reducing it, changing it to something that seems to be appropriate according to the lore, but it's got to be appropriate according to the lore. So we gave the God of the Hunt, these guys could shoot on a 2-up. But that's the only thing that changed for free, and there's other reasons for that that are consistent with the rest of the GW meta. So, what am I missing? We covered a lot. Thanks for sticking with us and watching this far into the video. If you've watched this far, then you're a dedicated person, which means you're as geeky as us. So welcome to the Eric Quinn Calidrum, the people of the Sacred Light. Well done.
We could dive into tactics, but they're pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
They're just gimmicky characters, really, just to mess people around, have fun. I wouldn't necessarily say they're competitive profiles. Pallando, maybe. Alatar,
depends a lot on what you play them with. You'd never play these guys alone. If
Yeah.
you put 200 points worth of orcs up against these guys, they're dead.
Yeah.
They're not going to
Except
last.
for Pallando.
Well, he could take them for a while, but that's true. He can just charge all over them.
You could just wreck them.
Okay, maybe not. But if you put a couple of heroes in there and spend 200 points, well, you put a warband of...
Yeah.
If you put a warband of Iron Hills against these guys, they're toast. They don't even want to fight good guys.
Yeah.
So they're expensive. You're going to spend that point value on special things for special purposes. So you build your army first. If these guys add some fun to your army, add them in. It's a lot of fun to plant trees inside your deployment zone and provide cover, and then put a bunch of archers with elven cloaks behind them. That's kind of what they do.
You don't even need elven cloaks. I've actually used both of these guys in tournaments before. In the 4 years of Council of the Wise, I've played Alatar in one, Pallando in the other, and then someone else who will remain unnamed in the third one. And they're actually both really good. Pallando, I used him as a tank just to kill stuff, and his casting was kind of minimal. Sandstorm is really good. That was only added in the new edition. We've play tested it a bit, but
which is why we restricted it to 3 inches and made sure that it affects enemies and friendlies.
Yeah, theoretically, it's really good. If you can find a character that's really expensive, say the Balrog, and just stand there and just sandstorm all day, then
he will fail eventually. You might have to burn some might on that to get it
not
off.
even that. He needs priority.
Yes, he does. If he gets charged, he's in trouble.
And then he can't cast, and then his 200-point model isn't doing you any good.
Yep.
Same deal goes with Alatar, except Alatar's no good in combat. The only thing Alatar has is Marinatar and then the camel hits. The camel hits are great, but one strength 4 hit won't necessarily do you that much good, and Marinatar is only good against spirits and trolls.
Yeah. So, if you get other guys charging in to get you extra dice, you start trapping, because Alatar's a wizard. He only has 1 attack. If you put him on a mount, he might get 2. That's it. When he's charging. So if you can trap stuff and get him in the fight, so his fight 6 helps you, you can double his dice because stuff's trapped. There's ways you can make him work, but you're going to play him as part of an army. You've got to play him as part of an army. Your strategy's going to revolve around the rest of the army. I
will say, though, the strength 4 hits on the camel, oh my goodness.
Really helps. Helps.
I know I just said that it's not that helpful, but if you charge Alatar on a camel into another mounted hero, just because, and then you hit their camel,
just from the impact hits?
You can spend his might on it if it's worth it. So when I ran them, I like to run. I have my Council of the Wise list that I run all the time. Boromir, 12 Fountain Court, Baragond, 6 Citadel.
This is good guy army.
Yeah, and then one of the 2 blue wizards. Because the point value's been shifting throughout the years, sometimes it would change. But basically, that was my list, and I just go Alatar, knock off the horse, and then Boromir come in and kill them. Because Alatar would come in,
there's an example.
Horse dies, Boromir.
But that is a really good example because he built a different army. He built his Gondor army. There's things it was good at, there's things it wasn't good at. He used the wizard, the blue wizard, to add some gimmicks and fill some needs and provide some mobility and do some interesting things. You don't play these wizards as an army, you play them for fun on top of something else. In our tournament, we try to make it fun, and this is part of how we do it. So, we are going to do more video reviews of other armies. Please look for those in the future. We have a lot of fun with this hobby. This is the kind of part of the hobby that really adds a lot of special custom stuff to it. And you can do this in your custom games at home. This is part of what makes it fun in point match play. You can stretch the rules a little bit if it's point match play. The tournaments, you got to behave and follow the rules for your league. In our league, our event is the only event that adds custom profiles only for the Blue Wizards, and the league admin team has supported this for the whole 4 years we've done the event. It's the only special thing that we add.
And just for reference, the Blue Wizards have yet to win a Council of the Wise.
Yes, they have not won, which is important. So that's good.
I've placed with them.
They've balanced.
But we haven't won.
We've demonstrated they don't break the game at all. They just add something interesting that's kind of fun. So we will do future army reviews of other armies. We have some other videos coming up. Council of the Wise is coming soon. We've actually got some more stuff that we're going to unbox as prizing.
Booked solid.
We are so excited. We have tons of prizes we haven't even shown yet, so we will show those. That's in our video channel. If you're from out of the province, I'm sorry, you should come visit Ontario sometime. We would love to give you some prizes. And we have Monster Mash ongoing, so feel free to tune in and watch that. Leave us some questions or comments. If you liked this video, we'd love to know your thoughts on the Blue Wizards. The profiles are on our Facebook page. You can download them there. They're on the GBHL page and on the OSBGL page, the Ontario League in Canada and the Great British Hobbit League. We've uploaded them both there, so feel free to download them, play them yourselves, send us comments. We'd love to hear how you like them or don't like them. If Games Workshop is watching this video and you want them, I will sign over the rights and you can keep them. We just want to play with them. Now, if you make a real model, I will put away my conversion and I'll cherish it and I'll play it anyway, but I'll buy yours too. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We'd love to see you again soon. My Govan, and we'll talk to you next video.